Facebook's online. YouTube is online. Who else is online? YouTube is trying to see if everyone's online. How you guys doing? What was that? All right. That should be working. Make sure they can hear me. Greetings, Zach.
Working.
All right, perfect. Y'all can hear me on YouTube. I'm just checking on, since I'm doing this solo, I'm checking on Facebook. Make sure they can hear me. I'm pretty sure if you guys can, they can. Join Cheriton. Bam. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and just assume that they can hear me and all the other platforms. What's going on? This is Ty. I am on a balcony of my apartment in Hollywood right now. I don't know if you can see, but the Hollywood sign is right there, right behind me. I wanted to get on today to talk about the gubernatorial primaries that happened last night in Florida. I don't know if you guys have, I'm pretty sure you've heard it all by now, you know, considering all the news that's going on with McCain. They still been talking about Andrew Gillum coming up on top in the Democratic side, and Ron DeSantis coming out on the Republican side in Florida. And I guess for everybody, it was this huge upset or historical moment where you get the first black candidate from one of the two major parties running for the governor of that state. And that is a great thing. I like last night, Gilliam was on CNN and he talked to, and Don Lemon brought the fact up about that historical aspect of it, you know, of him being the first candidate that happened that's black. And his response was, look, man, you know, I stand for Medicare for all. You know, I want to put an end to ICE. I want to overturn the stand your ground law. You know, I'm a politician that cares about the people who just happens to be black. And I love that comment from him, because what he's saying is, you know, I mean, I'm sure he did not, he understands the historical aspects of it, but, you know, no one, when any person that is, you know, white for the most part, that wins any type of office or seat, or getting the general election or win any type of election, they don't say, you know, the white person. It's just whoever that person is. And understandable, the reason that we kind of approach things like that because of our history in this country, and hopefully we're getting past that when a person can just be a person running. You know what I mean? Instead of, you know, a black person running, it can just be this person that won. But, you know, that being said, I think it's a major step. I think it speaks volumes to where we are, as a country, where Florida is as a state. Florida is a more purple state, and it seems like, you know, a lot of people kind of think that it's, you know, a Republican state because Trump won, but, you know, Obama in 2008 and 2012 also won Florida. So there's a lot to be said about that. And if you think about it, a lot of, Andrew won by 34%, right? He won by 34% to the other candidates, Gwen Graham and Philip Levine, who both are relatives to a senator and I think a senator and someone else. But anyway, they're thinking that because he only won by 34%, that it was majority of his votes were black and minority votes, that then how is he going to appeal to the centrists in that state? And I think that you know, I think his appeal will give that, but I think also it's up to the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party for the longest time has been shunning away progressives and things like that. You know, DCCC will tell people not to support certain progressives. You know, I think it's really up to them to stand behind him and see exactly where the state is heading, Florida State, and also where the country's heading, because this is really kind of, I don't want to say a match made in heaven or whatever, but you really get two polar opposites in this race, right? You have the what we can call the Bernie side, you know, a very progressive side who's you know, for Medicare for all, for abolishing ICE, for raising the minimum wage. And then you have the Trump wing of this side, which is Ron DeSantis, and he's for building the wall. I don't know if you guys saw his commercial where he was playing with his child and he was saying, you know, I forgot, but it was all, you know, it almost seemed like it was a satire, but I think it was just him trying to be funny and really saying, yeah, I guess it was a satire in a sense, but just showing his son how to build a wall with Legos and, you know, really grabbing a hold of that Trump wave. And it helped him. It helped him a lot. He won by 56% and 56.5% of the vote in Florida. So you know, you really get to hear in this gubernatorial race, you kind of get to see actually where that state really is and how that, because you know, news situations always push forward things, you know, and when we start to kind of see things shifting away, a lot of times the majority of the population will also shift. So I think the outcome of this general election will really kind of seal where we're headed and seal the 2020 presidential election and give us a better idea of who's going to be trying to run for office in 2020, because if Florida, if Andrew pulls this off, that lets not only the Republicans know, but the Democrats know that the Democratic Party is changing, and it's changing rapidly. And if you don't jump on the train, you're just going to get pushed off, you know what I'm saying? Or you're going to get left behind, you know, because regardless of whatever your views are, and you just don't want to endorse someone that's with making more regulations to help the environment, or that's for, you know, hiring a minimum wage or single payer, and wanting to abolish ICE and to get money out of politics. If you're not with that, then and you want to be stubborn, your stubborn ass is going to be pushed to the side, because you're not going to be able to stop the people. I think the people are more in tune now, you know, because of Trump, more in tune now about politics and wanting to get more involved. I think the majority of the majority of the country is feeling more emboldened to be a part of history right now. They want to be a part of this. They want to, in 30, 40 years, when they reflect, be able to tell their children that they was there, that they were a part of this defining moment, one of the defining moments in our country's history. You know, I think back to how back in the 60s, what the turmoil of the 60s did to this country. It really revolutionized this country. And when I talked to people that was alive at that time, you know, the sense of pride that they had to have been a part of that, you know, to had been there when Martin Luther King spoke, to know where they were when Robert Kennedy was assassinated in Los Angeles. I mean, to be a part of that history, it's something that I think everyone aspire to be, is a part of something greater than them. And revolutionizing our political process is greater than, you know, any individual's own selfish needs and wants, I feel. So I'm excited to see that. I think Andrew, very, very impressive very passionate. He's very appealing. You know, when he speaks, he draws you in, and you're listening, and you hear the passion when you hear him talk about his past, and you understand that he's one of you. You know, he's not someone standing over you, but he's at eye level to you, and he's experienced what you experience, and that's like a point of contact for a lot of people, whether black, white, Chinese, or whatever. You know, you want to relate to someone. You know, you want to feel like you're fighting for something. You know, and I think a lot of people feel that way. And you think about how much money was put in this race, just on the Democratic side. We know, you know, there's a lot of money put on the Republican side, but just the Democratic side, on its face, I think it was 7 times. It was millions of dollars more that was spent on Gwen and Phillips' campaign than Andrew's, and you look at that and you see how, if you can get out there, you can get people to have your back, and you can go talk to these people one-on-one, and go to these different communities that seem left behind, or just seem they feel as if the government doesn't take them into consideration. Then you can see that without having that money, that you can still win. Now imagine if he did have that money. Imagine if the Democratic Party would have backed him, and I mean, the outcome would have still been the same. It would have been a win-win. But I'm just saying, like, the Democratic Party talks about unifying, but as you see, when these primaries and these elections, these midterm elections come up, you start to see there's still a progressive wing and a Democratic wing. So you still see that divide, and hopefully, you know, as we start to see more progressives win, that we start to see the Democratic Party be more in line with the progressive movement, and start to support progressives outside the gate until waiting. You know, supporting progressive candidates out the gate, instead of waiting until after they win a primary to back them, and sometimes don't even do that. You know, so that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about, and also just to so this morning, Ron DeSantis was on Fox News. And he was talking about the win and everything, and he was talking about Gillum and just how articulate he was, and how I want to see if I can play this. You guys let me know if you can hear it, because I got to get more familiar with this thing, but I want to see if you guys can actually hear it when it's played. I won't have to explain it to you. See what he said. Let's see. Is it playing? It is not playing. Let me get you to play. Let me get you to play. Can we get you to play? I was supposed to be the tech guy. I can't even figure this out. I'm gonna have to. Guess not. Let me see. Okay, so it's not working. Well, anyway, what he said is, you know, how articulate Andrew was, and how he can really articulate the progressive message, but the residents in Florida need to understand that we don't want to go backwards. And what he said is, we don't want to monkey this up. And that kind of blew up on Twitter, and it blew up in the news. It's all on the news this morning, where you know, he used the word monkey in reference to Andrew Gillum. And you know, honestly, initially I was like, because things did. It's not like the things didn't jump out at me. Like when he said articulate, that definitely jumped out at me, because I think that word is used when you addressing a black person that that can, I guess, articulate himself well, or can can speak really good and push forward a point really well, that they're somewhat different than the average black person. When you said they articulate themselves very well, it's a dog whistle. So I heard it, but I heard him when he said articulate the message. So what was funny is how I tell him, like, maybe he didn't mean it like that. Obviously, when I first heard it, that's how I took it. I'm like, well, he said articulate the message, and and also I didn't know too much about Ron DeSantis, so I was like, maybe he was just talking about the message, and there was no real malice in that. And then he said, we don't want to monkey this up. And I'm like, oh my God, like, regardless of anything, regardless of however he meant that, it shouldn't have came out of his mouth. I think there's too much history, and it's too much going on even now to, put a black person and a monkey in the same sentence when trying to discourage people. The only thing that does is it showed, and that's not, to me, it wasn't even a dog whistle. It's more like a dog bark. You know what I'm saying? So, and then after a while, I started thinking about that commercial he did. I'm like, wow, he has that same sentiment of Trump. And so I was looking up some video footage of him. And about a month ago, he referred to Alexandria Cortez as whatever she is. He said something like, this Alexandria Cortez, whatever she is, like as if she's not a human, as if she is not a person. And I was like, wow, this dude is really out there, like, very committed to this Trump agenda, where alienating, a certain group to reach another group, and that's terrible. And as I was watching the news today, Angela Rye and Ben Ferguson was on CNN. And Ben Ferguson is like a conservative analyst, and Angela Rye is more on the liberal side. And so they were talking about, why you shouldn't, you have one on the Republican side, one on the conservative side. But anyway, Ben, he normally goes very conservative, always protecting the president and arguing for the president, really said something surprising. He said, you know what? I don't understand why politicians just can't say, I fucked up. I made a misstep. You know what I mean? Apologize for it and move on. No, I did not mean that I was not trying to compare him to a monkey, but I definitely understand how that comes off, and I apologize for that. I should have chose my words better and continue to move. Instead, they put out a statement saying, oh, he refers to this, to situations going awry as monkeying it up all the time. He didn't mean, to assume that there was some racial underlining is absurd. I'm like, are you crazy? You just denying it instead of understanding the sensitivity towards that and how that could possibly offend people, even if it's a misunderstanding. Like, you don't want any misunderstanding. So either you think either you're ill-advised, you think the black vote really isn't going to matter when it comes to getting into the gubernatorial position in Florida, so you don't need to apologize to anyone. It's either one of those two things that you feel that you can just go against it and not even acknowledge or address how that could possibly be offensive to people. It's beyond me that someone would be so arrogant to just, and this is really something that Trump would do. Trump would not apologize. Trump would just argue it down. But anyway, this guy, he said, I don't understand that. Like, it happens. Everyone, if you look at any type of race, it's a lot going on in races. There's a lot of interviews. There's a lot of talking back and forth, and sometimes you say the wrong thing. And if it's hard, why not take a step back and say, you know what? I understand that that could have been taken the wrong way, and it being taken the wrong way could be very offensive to a lot of people. And that's definitely what I didn't mean, and I just want to apologize for the fact that the word was used, because I could have used better language to articulate what I was trying to convey. But he didn't, you know, and but I thought that was kudos to Ben Ferguson, like really, and it's one of the things that frustrate me the most about mainstream media is that they never look at the truth. They never argue the truth. They just argue their side. You know, they really, it's almost like they're just blind. They have this blind allegiance to being a Republican or a Democrat instead of looking at the actual facts and truth. And I really appreciated the fact that he acknowledged that and really just was like, you know, this is what it is. It shouldn't have happened. Like, where did politics go? Where politics, I mean, where did our political fears go where politicians can't like take a step back and apologize? The only time they can apologize is if they get caught with a mistress or something. You know, everything else they're denying into the death. So, you know, so I thought that was really good for him to speak on that. Yeah, man, I think this is a great race. I think it's a great prequel, hopefully, to 2020 presidential race. I think everyone is going to be looking at this. So I think you got to understand, and I think we all understand, and for YouTube, this is a super chat, so you guys can also donate to the cause, donate to the, so that me and Jordan can get out in the field and start to cover some of these stories that you guys want to hear. But I think this is a great prequel to the 2020 presidential election. And regardless of what we think, like, the media really shifts the tide. Like, the thing that they cover the most is the thing that people are going to influence people more. So in this gubernatorial election, in the general, if Andrew happens to win, that's gonna be what we're going into 2020 with. In the midterms, Andrew won, first black mayor in the state that's always a toss-up. It's a purple state, and they'll push the progressive agenda forward. That would be kind of the nemesis to the Republican Party and even to the Democratic Party also. But that would be what they would be pushing forward if that was the outcome. Now, if the outcome is DeSantis winning, it will be the same thing. It'll be the progressive, even though it got some momentum, it lost it all during the gubernatorial race. And even though that doesn't have to be the reality of it, that becomes the reality when the mainstream media start to propagate that every day. They start to talk about that. That becomes what's in people's head. And then they start to get a little cynical about the realities of the progressive movement. So it'll be very interesting to see, and then even more interesting than what happened in New York with Alexandria and the Bronx. And I think it will push the tide because the media will push the tide, not because people will actually think because a Republican governor won over a progressive that then progressives can't win in any other states. That's not that. It's not that progressives will feel that way, but what will happen is all the information that people will start receiving will then say that, you know, if Andrew don't capture that seat. I kind of think he will. He seems very open. He very solid in his beliefs, and he's not scared to talk about how Trump is dividing this country. Another thing, he doesn't focus on Trump. He rarely talked about Trump. You know, he actually had a message. He actually had something that he was running on. You know, so that's a great thing. He wasn't running on an anti-Trump campaign or, you know, vote for me because I'm better campaign. No, vote for me because, you know, I'm middle class like you guys. Vote for me because I want to get the tax the rich more so we can have more resources in our state. vote for me so that we can start getting money in these schools, so then we can have more schools for our children. Vote for me so we can hike up the minimum wage so you won't have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. You know what I mean? So, you know, that having that platform and having a kind of, you know, something concrete to hold on to versus just going against the sitting president is amazing to me. And I think that he's, like I said, very appealing guy. I think he will appeal to every person, white, black, Asian, Hispanic. It really doesn't matter if you're open to listening, you know. And I think that's what it has to be. Like Trump's base is Trump's base. They don't give a fuck. They're gonna do whatever it is that Trump wants. That's just, you got people like that in the world. You got them on every side. You got them on a Democratic side. You have them on a Republican side. Just blind allegiance. You think about the 2008 campaign before Barack got steam. Blind allegiance. Everybody was going with Clinton. No one gave him the chance. Whole lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Blind allegiance without even knowing who this guy was. And then finally, you know, obviously he won. But it's the same thing, you know. Trump supporters, blind allegiance. It doesn't matter. It don't matter. And that's just the reality of our state of politics right now. And we just have to rise above that and ask more of ourselves and ask more of our politicians. And I think we are. I think we're doing it. I think people, and I think the political world, the Democratic Party, is starting to see that people are paying attention. You can't just come in 2 months before an election and try to get the black vote or try to get the Hispanic vote. People are really understanding how much they've been hoodwinked throughout these years dealing with the Democratic Party. A lot of them are frustrated and for some reason going to the Republican Party when they really don't have your best interests at heart. But they need to go to somebody, and that's completely understandable. And for some reason, the Democratic Party still got these blinders on. But it's either, you know what I'm saying, you're going to change from within or outside circumstances is going to change you. Either or, it's going to happen. When the wave comes, you can't stop it, period, point blank. So hopefully they get the hint and start backing some progressives that really want to have their constituents as their first priority instead of their donors. You know, that are really engaged in the community and really are about making sure that their community have the resources that they need to thrive, to have that American dream. That American dream shouldn't be some pie in the sky that only a few people could attain. It's for everyone, you know, with the resources to do it. Like, you don't just have the American dream by being on this soil. You know what I mean? The American dream comes from institutions being able to fairly be calculated inside those institutions and not being held back for reasons of race, religion, or any other thing. You know, I think that's a part of the American dream, is having an equal playing field. And to fight for that equal playing field, you need people that really are concerned with the average citizen and not the 1% of people in the country that's trying to capitalize off the country as much as possible. So yeah, that's my spiel for the day. I think if Ron DeSantis continues with this type of rhetoric, throwing these little dog whistles, that he's not going to do good, because he's not Trump. That's just period, point blank. He's not Trump. You know, Trump has this fucking, I don't know, man, this Teflon on him. When certain things happen, it's just like, you know, it doesn't matter. You know, he does. He really does. You see it. You know, some things that he kind of like, you know, he made the flag back at half-staff because the veterans organization, I know they sent him a letter like, you got to do this regardless of whatever's going on. And obviously, a large majority of his base are veterans, are military servicemen, so he had to bow down to that. But if he could have had it his way, he would have had it. That's how petty he is, you know what I mean? And a lot of times he won't lose a lot of people, but certain things that he do when he know he can lose, like not having that the flag at the White House at half-staff, he know that can actually fuck up his base, and so he did what he was supposed to do. But for the most part, the guy can do a lot without any consequence, and that's why he's felt emboldened to do, you know, everything that he's done. But, you know, that's Trump. That's not DeSantis. He's just not Trump, and he's not going to have that type of favor with people. He won't. And you can continue to do that because your language is key, buddy. Your language is key, and your language is going to dictate where you end up in November. Period. Point blank. You know what I mean? You don't have carte blanche. You really do not have carte blanche. And if you think you do, you gonna hurt yourself. And sometimes it's hard to not feel that you have carte blanche when you got 56% of the Republican vote. You know what I mean? That's saying a lot. Now, but if you think about it, Adam Putin got 36%, right? Now you think about that. That's 36%. Now we got two sides of the coin, all run this on kind of a populist message, right? A lot of people in the general election in 2016 said if Bernie was on the ticket, they would have voted for Bernie instead of Trump. But they voted for Trump because he was on the ticket and he had a populist message. So those Republicans can easily go that way. You know, if he can appeal to Republicans, they can easily go that way. If the DCCC and the DNC do what they need to do, it can be an easy win for Andrew. It can be an easy win for Andrew. So you continue to have that rhetoric. I doubt that the American people, that the people of Florida really want to have to deal with another Trump-type personality, where it's always something, and so, take it easy, brother. Take it easy. So that's it for me today. I will be going live periodically. Me and Jordan, we still getting some things together, trying to get some technical issues together with, a lot of times when we go live, we be in large crowds of people. So a lot of times when you're in large crowds, all those people suck up the wireless service. So a lot of times we get it where the sound is bad. We get all these interruptions where the feed is lacking. So we got a product called Live View, or something that I use with the Young Turks also, that will grab the strongest signal. It actually bonds all the signals together. It makes the strongest signal. So even if we're at the like the Women's March, where there's a million people there, that we'll still, if there's a signal to be grabbed, we'll still be able to grab that and get the best quality stream while we're on the field, because I think for me and for Jordan, it's a big issue, because we want to make sure that you guys can see what's going on and still be in tune. I know a lot of times when I watch live feeds, if the sound is terrible, I'm definitely logging out because I just can't deal with it. But even if the picture is terrible too, I can hang in for a little bit to hope that it clears up. But if it doesn't, I'm tuning out. So we're taking all that in consideration to try to get the best equipment we can afford. And the best equipment for what we are actually doing. So we've been doing a lot of that behind the scenes, getting all that together. So the next time we go out, that we're making sure that you guys are tuned in. You're getting what you are viewing, tuning in for. So that's what's happening on our side. What else is going on in the world? Nothing. We just here try to make it happen. Like I said, it's a super chat. You guys can donate to Jordan, become a Patreon, or donate on a super chat to help fund this media that no one else is concerned about, the news stories that really concern you, the news stories that's not getting any play in the mainstream media. So we really appreciate your help and your assistance with that. And yeah, I think that's it. But as we go on, you're going to start to see everything is going to get a lot better. We're getting graphics together, things like that I'm putting together that are really, in addition to the great stories, just make it look great. I think it all plays a part in it, So that's it. You guys enjoy the rest of your week. Peace. Jesus. Install this.
Where they could reshape the Democratic caucus in the way that the Tea Party did. And so you do have people that are winning in places where it's a red state and maybe they're not going to win the general election, or maybe they're just replacing another Democrat. But even when they're replacing another Democrat, they're still going to reshape the caucus.
Yeah, but so the question then is, the Tea Party obviously had good success in the general. Do these progressives do well in the primary and not match that success in the general?
I mean, I see so many corollaries between what's happening on the progressive side with the Tea Party, primarily because you see these insurgent candidates like Gillum who are beating their establishment-funded candidates. They don't have much money, but they're getting the message out. They're activating the grassroots. They're generating a lot of enthusiasm, and they're presenting a bold contrast to what's being offered in Washington by running on specific issues, while so many Republicans like DeSantis are running on the president's coattails and not much else.
Well, listen, there's a lot more to talk about, but meanwhile, he's reportedly convinced President Trump not to fire Jeff Sessions in the past. So who will hold this president in check now that White House counsel Don McGahn is leaving? Then, saying goodbye to a war hero, senator, husband, and father. Family, friends, and the public begin their emotional farewell to John McCain.
Prize for 316, please. Thank you.
David, what's going on? Oh, hey. That's it? Yeah.
Everybody, 2 seconds. Dear Sebastian, after careful consideration of your application, it is with great pleasure that we offer our congratulations on your acceptance.
Through the Tuition Assistance Program, every day McDonald's helps more people go to college. It's part of our commitment to being America's best first job.
It's the Labor Day sale at Ace.
The perfect time to buy a grill from our exclusive lineup of premium brands.
Right now, save $50 on select Weather Spirit grills. Plus, get free assembly and delivery on grills $3.99 and up. Now through Monday.
Ace is the place with helpful hardware, folks.
I love my grandma.
As you grow older, your brain naturally begins to change, which may cause trouble with recall.
Learning from him is great, when I can keep up.
Thankfully, Prevagen helps your brain and improves memory.
Dad's got all the answers.
Prevagen is now the #1 selling brain health supplement in drugstores nationwide.
She outsmarts me every single time. Checkmate. You want to play again?
Prevagen, healthier brain, better life.
I thought it stopped.
It's the perfect time to refresh your wardrobe.
They still been talking about Andrew Gillum and
Men's Wear House and